So I think that Billy is on here. Real quick for everybody's watching, I was having technical issues, but I'm back. This is my you already know who this is. It's Kevin Chill Hurd. This is my brother Darrell Shake and Bake Sullins, my brother in martial arts, black belt, United States Karate Federation Hall of Fame,
And
and we
teammate abilities.
and teammate. We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
So we have Billy on. He's actually ready to come in. But before we bring him in, we want everybody to know this is a special interview for us. Uh, we grew up watching Billy Blanks as a martial artist. He was good friends with our instructor, the late great Grandmaster Ken Ferguson. So, and Darrell said that he was on the United States team in 1981 with Billy Blanks. So, hey, it took us. I had technical difficulties getting back in my own Zoom. Okay, now I got it. Hold on, let me get that straight. Just a second. Kick me off. Just a second.
The super producer's not coming on?
No.
Okay.
Everybody's watching. I was having technical issues. Hold on.
Good. I'm gonna talk about her again. I say I'm gonna on it once again. You went on.
Black belt. I have to go to Hall of Fame
And teammate abilities.
and teammate. We're gonna talk about that. So we have Billy on. All right. Let me get this back on. All right. I had to take off the other YouTube channel that was playing. You ready to bring Billy on? As long as we don't do the Karate Creed.
Yeah. You know what? I got home and I said it. It was just the moment, man.
Hey, man, we're going to have to do a little special on the Karate Creed. But, hey, without further ado, guys, despite all of the drama, technical difficulties, let's bring on the man that everybody is waiting to see. All right, let's get him in the room. And it sounds like Art. Can you hear? Oh, he's waiting. He's getting connected. Asked him to unmute.
Hello, how you guys doing?
There we
What's
go.
up, Billy? What's up, man?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome everybody to this special episode of Chill Talk. It is our great pleasure to introduce you the world-renowned, the celebrity, martial arts master, Tae Bo, creator, film star.
Well, thank you, man.
Entrepreneur, the one and only Billy Blanks. Darrell, let's give him the big
Billy Blanks in the house.
Thank you guys so much. Thank y'all. I'm glad to be here.
How's it going, sir?
Everything is well, man. I just got to say, God is good 24/7, right? So, I lean on Him 24/7, and then I do my own chores that I need to do to help myself be able to lean on Him, and I go for it.
All right. Well, I am the host of Chill Talk, Kevin Chill Hurd. It's my brother Darrell Shake and Bake Sullins. Both of us, you've been in contact with the both of us, both students of our instructor Ken Ferguson, and Darrell was a teammate of yours as well.
Yeah,
on the 1981 team.
I remember those days, boy. Those good old days, man.
Yeah, man.
Now, real quick, because, and we're gonna, and hopefully we know we don't have you for a long time, but right off, and we saw the information that you left, the video that you left that played at Ken Ferguson's homegoing. Everybody loved it. Ken himself would have loved it. All of his students, we all loved it. Talk to us a little bit about Ken.
Well, the thing that I know, when I first met Ken, I met him at one of Al Jean Carillion tournaments. When that was before the United States team trials.
Yeah,
I got a chance to go to one of the tournaments in Cleveland, Ohio, and at the time I met him there. And when I met him there, he competed. And at that time he was I think he was a green belt. Green belt or purple belt, one of the two. And I watched him work out, and I know Ron Shaw was his instructor, and I know how good Ron Shaw is as a martial art teacher too. So I know that Ken was a pretty good athlete. The thing that I liked about Ken the most was, he was humble. He was a humble person. even though he has super athletic ability, and sometimes it's hard to speak to martial art guys because they don't know how to drop, they don't know how to push away from the ego.
Right.
When I met him, man, it was like, I'm me myself. He was kind of quiet. I was pretty quiet too. And so when we got to be friends, we just talked. We talked about martial arts. We talked about, how what do we think about making this United States team? And it was tough. I went to Cleveland. I think I was at the time 19 or 20 years old. And this was, when I went there, I didn't even think I was good enough to go there, right? But I went there. I got in my pickup truck and drove down there. And when I drove down there, I saw all these guys walking in the college. I was like, people like Tom the Puppet, Craig Clinton. I mean, every one of these martial art guys is supposed to be one of the top martial art guys in the world. People I was looking at in the magazines, Victor Moore, Walter Fagan, all these top guys. And then there was me and Ken, people didn't even think we should be there. They didn't even think we should be there. We just kind of tucked together and said, hey man, you started one end, I started the other end. And we did that. And I ended up winning the national title. And then I think Ken took second or third place in that competition. And then we ended up getting a chance to go to the team trials. And then when we got to the team trials, they put us in different rooms with each other, because we both came from almost the same area. So they took Ken, they put him in a room with a guy, and they put me in a room with another guy. And all we did was get up every morning and work out ourselves. And at the same time, I had a Chinese professor. His name was James Tan, that he always traveled with me. He was a philosopher. I mean, he was a psychologist too. So he would take me and Ken to the side. And he would just say, hey man, what you guys got over most of these people is we had that mental control. And he said, that's what you guys need to work on the most. You guys are very good athletes, and sometimes athletic ability can overshine. You think in the right way. So he just took it to the side and kind of talked to us. People talk about hypnotism. Right. I just felt like he was talking to our hearts. And he was telling us, you guys, even though you haven't been in this field fighting for a long period of time, you guys have the opportunity of a lifetime to make the United States karate team. Every day we got up, it's like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning in Long Beach, California. And we worked out. We went to the team trials. We fought every day. We talked every day. And we became close friends, man. We talked and we stayed in a room in South Africa together. We traveled together. And when we made that team, when we got to the team trials, I said, hey man, I think you'll have to put on the black belt.
Okay, now you know what I gotta say, because that's part of it's almost mythology around the Ken Ferguson dojo. I mean, we've heard that story from Kenny's side so many times. So how we heard it is he got there as a purple belt, which is almost unheard of. Right. And he says, man, Billy told me, he say, Ferg, man, you can't go in there with that purple belt on, man.
It did.
So tell me, and so you gave him. Tell us what happened.
So what happened is I said, hey man, you can't go in there with the purple belt, even though your skills are really good. Them instructors, judges can play. Well, you only a purple belt. What are you doing fighting in black belt? I said no. I said what you need to do, man. I said your skills are good enough. Your confidence is good enough. Let me just give you a black belt. You put it on and you go ahead and compete. Compete as a black belt. I don't think Ron will get upset. He knows you have good skills, and I just think it'd just be a good way for you to see where your level is, right? And he said, okay. So he tucked the black belt. He put it on, and we lined up. None of the instructors knew because they don't check. They don't go back and check in your back, right at that time. And so he got out there, and he started fighting. We fight. We met each other in the middle, and he ends up, I think, taking a second or third place, right? I won the division, and then I got a chance to go. We both got a chance to try out for the team, and from that point on, I said, "Hey, Ken, because at the time Ron still didn't promote him to black belt yet. Right? He was still a purple belt, green belt. I think maybe he might have got the brown belt.
Got the brown belt, maybe.
Right,
yeah.
right. And I said, but still, you can't go to the team trials with a brown belt on because they're gonna be a lot of guys out there trying to keep me serious. They had a lot of rough guys. I think it had over 50, 60 guys trying out for that team.
And that's the ego thing that would have came in. Ain't no brown or purple belt gonna beat me.
Right. Right. And,
Right.
and I said, Ken, because he's tall too, right?
Yeah.
So I said, and plus he was thin. Most of these guys were big, right?
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, I think you should wear the black belt here too. And so he just, I gave him the black belt. He wore the black belt and went out there and just started whooping people.
Now, Darrell, how many times have you and I heard, Ken tell us that story about Billy giving him that black belt to put on?
Yeah, and I only did that because I knew his skills were good enough, and I knew his confidence was good enough because he was an athlete. Ken was an athlete, right? I think he played basketball, right? One of the two.
He did all kinds of sports for sure.
Right. So I just knew that the way judges were, they were not going to let him compete or let him even try for the United States team if he was a lower belt. So I said, man, put on the black belt and let's go for it. And he did. He went out there, man, proved himself, made the United States team. We traveled all over the world together. We went to France, we went to South Africa, went everywhere.
Now,
hold on.
Go ahead, Darrell.
Hold on. That played a part with us because we heard that story.
Right.
Then we went to Ken like, hey, we need to be in black belt.
hey, I think we carried on that tradition. Of all ranks. Hey, Billy, as a matter of fact, we carried on that tradition because like when one of us would move up to another division, then that left another division. So like when Darrell left brown belt to go to black belt, me and Gino, we like, okay, we go in the brown belt.
So y'all took over the brown belt division while he took over the black belt division.
Took over. Yeah. Right. That's right. And then we started.
I didn't know that, but I knew that I knew that he fought as a brown belt, as a black belt, right?
Brown
belt.
You played as a black belt first.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And I said, well, Ken got some. He got some good students, and we all fighting on the United States karate team, and I did. It was kind of a thing that I used to do to my green black belts too. Is I said, hey, I think you qualified to fight in a different division. Let's put on this belt just for this, and then when you go back to the studio, you just put your other belt back on, until you get the qualifications and learn your forms and do all that other stuff.
Hey.
And
Darrell will agree that sometimes we'd get our black belt at the tournament.
Yeah.
Like we'd be at the tournament and Ferg would say, you feel like fighting black belt today?
I think that was good for a student.
Right.
I think the confidence of a student, what a teacher believes in a student.
Yeah.
That, to me, when somebody say, hey, I think you're good enough to fight as a black belt, that's telling me a lot from an instructor. That instructor believes that I'm good enough to fight. Or otherwise, he would not put me in the ring and put me up there to get hurt. And that's what I felt about Ken. I believe his skills were good enough, and I believe he trusts me enough to be able to put on that black belt and go for it. And he did. And I think he did the same thing with you guys. The same thing I did with my students. I just feel like they're working out with me all the time. You guys are sparring with them all the time. And
I
knew that you guys were qualified to get out there and fight with the best. And I think that's awesome. But most instructors wouldn't do that. Ego.
Well, we had to know our stuff.
Right. Well, you definitely.
And I think he might have did that on purpose.
Huh?
He might have did that on purpose because we all, like I said, one progressed. Somebody had to move in there, but we had to know our stuff. And he just wouldn't give it to us like that. We had to earn that sucker. And then when he said that, hey, you know what to do.
Yeah, right. It was time. Hey, Billy, when he asked me that I want to fight in black belt division, I had that same tournament. I had to fight Spider Kennedy, Morris Kennedy.
But see, that's good though. I think that was good.
Yeah,
because he thought his students were good enough. Why? You guys spar with him all the time.
Yeah,
that for me was great about being a martial arts instructor. My sparring partners are all my students.
Yeah.
So, I had some brown belts and black belts that could fight pretty good. And I would say, hey, I think you guys need to step it up and move up in a different division. When you come back to the dojo, you put on your belt. But eventually, like he did at tournaments, I would promote my students the same way. So I think you qualify to wear a black belt. You might have to work on your katas and technique, but you got your black belt. Let's go.
Well, Billy, one thing's for sure. We knew one thing. If we got in black belt division and we won, we knew we were never going back down to another division again.
But I don't think you can go back anyway. Even if you
that's right.
You couldn't go back.
That's right. And, that was right.
It was a big step. That's a big step. And that's what I liked about Ken. He was always open, man. Always open to, even though we were on the road, like he allowed me to use him. like when I was creating Tae Bo, right? He allowed me to say, "Hey man, put a Walkman in your ear. Let me see you try this. Let me see you try that." And he tried it, and that kind of gave me incentive because if I felt like if somebody would, like a male would like to do something like this, then I think other males would do it. So him and the whole team, the whole United States team, I got the opportunity to start, doing some little bitty workouts with the United States team just to give a chance to see what Tae Bo was at that time. And at that time, it wasn't called Tae Bo. It was called karate aerobics.
Okay.
Right. That's what it was called. It was called karate aerobics. And when I moved to California is when I changed the name.
Okay, now, and we definitely want to get into the creation of Tae Bo, but that team that you were talking about, Darrell, we looked up to those guys. That was Toki Hill, Domingo Llanos, Alberto Pena, those guys on that 75 team. So that was a bad team right there. Y'all really bad boys.
And I think I was the only person on that team that was a Korean stylist, right?
Right, I believe so.
Everybody on that team was either Japanese or Chinese Kempo, right?
And I want to go back just for a second because and as your fame, and we want to go back to Tae Bo, but as your fame from Tae Bo took hold over the world, everybody saw you, but we knew you as one of ours from our area, coming up, seeing you all the time when you were out of Erie, and just seeing you and your students all the time. A lot of people didn't know your actual martial arts background because the Tae Bo had gotten so big. Talk to a little bit about your martial arts training. How did you get into martial arts, and how did you get to your black belt and become the type of fighter that you became?
Well, I think I started martial arts in 1963, right? At a youth center called the Martin Luther King Center in Erie, Pennsylvania. And the only reason why I got involved with that, because I have 10 brothers and 5 sisters, right? And I was the only brother that couldn't play sports. I was uncoordinated. I was shy. At the same time, I had a learning disorder. And the learning disorder that I had at that time, people didn't really know anything about. It was dyslexia. And having dyslexia was hard for me in school because it was hard for me to read. I would leave out words and I would leave out numbers and things like that. So I had a hard time in school. And I told my mom, I said, "Mom, I want to take martial arts." And at the time, we couldn't afford it because we had a big family. But then I heard that they were building a youth center in our neighborhood. And once they got the youth center done, they were going to put karate in there. And I said, okay. And they ended up getting this youth center finished. And I went down to the youth center. And at the time, I was in a little bitty gang. How you back in those days, I was in this gang, man. I used to get run. Serious. I used to get run home from school all the time, right? So I got tired of getting run home from school. So I buddied up with a bunch of kids my age. And we were called the West Side Street Gang, and then you have 3rd Street Gang, and Chestnut Street Gang, stuff like that. And we all went down to the youth center, and this guy, it was a Korean guy and a black gentleman here. He just came back from Vietnam, right? He was in the gym. He was practicing all his martial arts moves, and they saw us looking in the door. And man, inside my heart, I want to take karate so bad, but I know these guys were thinking martial arts were for wimps, right? Because when the instructor came over, he said, "Hey, you guys want to take karate?" And I wanted to say really bad, I wanted to take it, but I couldn't because I knew the gang would beat me up, right? So all the kids in the gang, well, that's for girls. Nobody want to take that stuff. And I wanted to say so bad. And so he says, "Okay, well, you guys go ahead." So we left, right? And as soon as we left, they went to our direction to go home. I went to my direction to go home. I ran back to the youth center. When I went back to the youth center. The guy saw me. He said, "Hey, you want to take karate?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'll bet you $5 you don't stick it out." And I go, "I bet you $5 I will." And, I've been taking martial arts now for close to 50 years, right?
Yeah.
But it started there at the youth center. And then at the youth center, I started to see that martial arts gave me an insight. I got a chance to see out of my own eyes that I could be successful at something, because in school, I wasn't doing really well. And with martial arts, I started getting better and better.
Well, and as people knew, as we certainly knew long before Tae Bo, because we came up, Darrell and I and the rest of our guys came up watching you. And to say that you were a good martial artist is an understatement, because you were doing, Darrell knows, we saw you, you were doing movie looking stuff actually in the karate tournaments.
Well, man, that was a thing that I always practiced, though. My goal was, I really didn't care about winning. All I wanted to do was be able to grab the audience. I want to be able to, if I can make the audience stand up and go, "Wow, woo," I mean, I used to watch martial arts movies. I'm pretty sure you guys watch them all the time too. And I said, man, I'm gonna do some of those things that people do in the martial arts movies. So I used to take, lead. You know the lead. You know what lead is, right?
Yeah.
Well, I used to take a shoe print and I used to put it in the ground. And I used to go in the house and take some lead, put it in a skillet, and bring it outside and pour it inside of this shoe mold. And I used to put it in the bottom of my shoes. I did everything I could do to be able to jump high. Because I always want to do jump kicks, right?
Don't let me forget now. You go ahead, Kevin.
Oh yeah, you already know we going there, Darrell.
Oh, we going there. Ladies and gentlemen.
I always wanted to practice jump kicks, man. And, and I did all kinds of stuff. Go ahead.
Okay,
here's what I'm going to say. And I believe it was at Cleveland State. Or Tri-C, or someplace.
Man, it was more than just that place.
Yeah.
Hold on, Darrell. But just let me say this. Because when we talk about you, there's one on the people think it's a myth. That when they talk about your athletics, everybody, whenever the name Billy Blanks comes up about you as a fighter in the area, they all have one story about your athletics. And that's, we saw Billy Blanks jump up and kick a basketball net.
Yeah, man.
I couldn't believe that.
I used to practice jumping up, kicking the side of our roof on the house. And so every day I used to practice doing it. And then I took a balloon one day and I put it as high as the rim, right? And I took a safety pin and I put it in my toenail and I did a jump kick. Jumped and kicked 10 feet, man. That right from that day forth, I started, just for sometimes I try to make people nervous before I get ready to fight them.
Oh, we know.
I used to jump up in there and go, I used to practice jump on, I know people in those 8-9 feet high, but I felt like if I can jump over your head, I catch you coming with something, catch you with a kick.
Now,
so
Darrell,
I used to practice jump kick. That was one thing I love to do.
Darrell, when you first saw that, and we would tell people about it, they were like, no, man, you lying. Yeah. That did not happen.
Yeah, I got pictures. I got to send y'all some pictures of me doing it. Kicking the basketball hoop. I'm kicking the basketball hoop.
My mouth was open. I'm like, did he just do what I thought he did? Because who thinks of doing that?
Well, man, I should practice that. Also, too, I used to play basketball, right? I learned how to play basketball because of karate. And I used to go in and pin a guy going for a layup. I used to take my foot and pin it on the backboard.
Wow.
No, I used to do stuff like that. I used to practice jump kicks. I used to really practice hard jump kicks. That was one thing I loved to do because at that time, I didn't have really good flexibility. I couldn't even touch my toes, right? And then eventually I quit fighting for like a year. And all I did was work on stretching. All I did was stretch. I wanted to be able to get my splits. I said, one day I'm going to stretch. So I stretched 5-6 hours a day. I used to stretch with Ken. We used to stretch and stretch and stretch. And man, when we going to kick? I said, I ain't kicking right now. We're going to stretch, right? Stretch and do push-ups. That's what we did, right? And then eventually I got my split where I can kick high. So then I started fighting back in competition again. I kind of got away from competition for like 1 year. Stepped away and just practiced doing 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, and got my split. And
because obviously you were always, every time we saw you were very athletic. Is that something that you really trained on being, or were you a naturally gifted athlete?
Oh man, I trained every day. I should get up and be in my backyard. My mom used to think I was crazy. I should go get home from school, go in my backyard and just practice every day. I worked on footwork. I worked on jumping. I looked at Michael Jordan. I used to look at 3 things. I looked at like animals, some of the animals. I used to work snake. I used to look at the gazelle, think about how fast muscle twitch fiber they had. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to get my muscles fiber that quick so I can be explosive. And then I looked at Michael Jordan and football players. I say, you know what? I want to be able to jug. I'm going to be able to jump, fake, do things like that, and get martial art people. Because martial art people don't practice athletic things. They just practice martial arts. Mm-hmm. And my thing was I wanted to find the best athlete and kind of copy them and some of the things they do and then add it to my martial arts. And so we did that all the time. Footwork. I would practice footwork for 2-3 hours, just footwork. No techniques, just footwork. And then I would add to my footwork whatever technique and try to disguise it and make it be better and better and better. And then I got to the point where I got really pretty sufficient at it. And then that's what I did every day.
I want to tell you another technique that amazed us that we saw you do. And it was funny because, and I don't know if you remember this, it was at Al Jean tournament. It was at Forest. It was at the Mars Martial Arts Rating System National Championships.
Mm-hmm.
We were there, and I was on a brown belt team, and we were bad. Nobody could beat us. Everybody was afraid of us. And Al Jean didn't want to give us our trophy because we had qualified. He said, you need to fight somebody before you could get your trophy. So one of our teammates started talking a little foxy and said, we'll fight the we'll fight the black belt team. And so Al Jean got on the mic and said, oh, we got a bunch of brown belts. Said they want to fight the black belt team. Okay, now I was down to maybe fight a black belt team, but the black belt team that they put together to fight us was you, Ken Ferguson, James Cook, and it might have been Spider Kennedy.
Yeah, it was Spider Kennedy.
And Bill Hanna.
I'm like, okay, see, now we got a problem. So I start negotiating. I said, okay, this is what I'm offering. It's two people I'm not going to fight on that team. First of all, I don't want to fight anybody on that team. But who I'm not fighting is Ken Ferguson, because I don't want to fight my instructor, because he's not going to make first, it's disrespectful, and two, he'd beat me down. for just having disrespect.
No, man, he would beat you down. I used to work out with him.
Hey, boy, and then Billy, and I said the other person
knock your head off.
I said the other person I'm not fighting is Billy Blanks, because it's showtime, it's center stage, and what he's not gonna do is a cartwheel and kick me in my lip. So I had to fight Cook.
Or the scissors. Or the scissors.
Oh, the flying scissors.
Yeah.
So one of my boys, Danny Marzan, one of Al Jean's students, he came in. I had to fight Cook. Cook beat me 1-0. I'm happy with that. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah.
That's right. One of the best fighters on the planet, but 1-0, I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
Danny Marzan came in late. He said, who we fighting? He said, we fighting the black belt team. What? Who? Ken Ferguson. He like, what? Billy Blanks. Who? What? Spider Kennedy, James Cook, Bill Hanna. He say, okay, well, I want to fight Bill Hanna. And I said, well, we already picked who you fighting. And because you wasn't here when we picked, you got to fight Billy Blanks. And do you know that you did like a cartwheel, flying scissors, and bust his lip? And I said, and that's why I do not want to fight Billy Blanks.
And at that time, we didn't have equipment, right?
We might have had the safety punches and
punches,
kicks.
Yeah.
Well, we did.
I think back then. So really quick before we move on, and we know we don't have you for a lot of time, but when did you develop like the flying scissors and the cartwheel kicks in regular tournaments?
1973. I fought in Buffalo, New York. I met a guy named Wally Slokey.
Oh, right? Wally was a bad dude.
Hey, the master of the flying scissors.
Yeah.
He was the guy. I fought a guy named Mr. Wong. His name is Team Fong Wong. I fought in his tournament. And I won the heavyweight division. And then I got a chance to fight for grand championship. And Wally Slokey was the defending champion. So at that time, I had won the overall. So he was gonna have to fight me, right? And Wally Slokey was somebody great. I respected him like you don't know what. And he said, well, I don't want to fight. He didn't fight in a competition. He didn't want to defend his title. So they automatically gave me the grand championship. So he said, hey, you want to do an exhibition? I said, sure, I'd love to do an exhibition fight, right? And he took me in the hallway before we did exhibition. Before the whole day began, right? He took me in the hallway and he said, hey, I'm going to show you some new moves. He showed me the flying scissors, right? And he would do it to the waist. He would jump up and scissor you by the waist. And I said, okay. He showed me how to do the technique. I kept practicing and practicing. In that same tournament, at that nighttime finals. I jumped up and scissored him by his neck, right? He got so mad, man. He got mad. He got really mad. And he tried to hurt me, kick me in my throat, right? Kicked me in my throat. And I was like, wow, man. At the time, I think I was 22 years old, something like that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to come back one day and I'm going to meet this guy. Because, I mean, I was just new, you know. And so I started training, flying scissors, all my kicks, all the punches. I started training that stuff over and over. And I would take all these people's pictures and I would put them on the wall in my basement. I had all these pictures on the wall. I had Wally Slokey. You know who else picture I had on the wall? Ron Shaw. I had his picture. Ron Shaw. James Cook had his picture on the wall. Bill Wallace. All these people that I wanted to be just as good as. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they had something that I wanted to put in my repertoire so I could have all 10 of these guys inside of me, plus my own style. That's what I did every day. I would go in the basement and I would look at each one of these fighters and try to copy what they do, but also do my own thing. And I worked and worked and worked. And that's how I became martial artist. I became,
a fantastic martial artist. And, you know, and Darrell knows Wally Slokey. We know Wally Slokey, one of the master Canadian fighter, one of the masters of that flying scissors technique.
Yeah. So, kick. He was like the first person who did splits.
Right. Right.
He taught Bill Wallace how to do split. Did you know that?
Oh, is that right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he taught Bill Wallace how to do splits.
Okay.
I know I saw Bill Wallace almost kick Darrell in the face
at
Battle of Atlanta. Darrell was talking some smack.
You did it. Did you do exhibition with him?
We weren't even in the tournament. Was over. And we were just chilling. He came out because they came out with the new Century Karate Gis. So he was trying on the pants. And I'm like this, oh, you ready to fight now? And he was like this, wham, threw that kick.
I was like, woo, Darrell, you almost caught a bad one.
But you know
Bill
what?
Wallace.
It was at that point, he showed me. He said, look, your kicks have to come from the knee. And that's what I started working on from then. And I had a double kick. I used to put guys out with it.
Yeah, I remember.
It was, I think it was one of your students too.
I remember.
Because I remember you saying, he said, it's Ken Ferguson's student, he can kick.
No, because that was because Ken really wasn't that flexible.
Right.
He was not. That is true.
Right.
No, he wasn't really that flexible. He would, if he hit you, he'd knock your head off.
Oh, my goodness.
Serious. He was on there.
And you talk about, you being influenced by and certainly Ron Shaw, that's our instructor's instructor. So, we've seen Ron Shaw spar with him, phenomenal all around martial artist.
That guy was like, serious
fighter, kata, weapons kata.
He was amazing to me. Ron Shaw was amazing to me.
Right.
And I
wanted to say, go ahead, Billy.
I always wanted to compete against him. Only competed against, we fought Dick twice,
Right.
And always on, because he was somebody who made you want to always rise up.
Right. And I was going to tell Darrell laugh at this because one of our other brothers came up with this black belt, one of our brothers, Melvin Brown. Whenever we would spar, he'd be jumping up and down and he'd say, I'm Billy Blanks. I'm Billy Blanks. I'm going to fly today. I'm going to fly.
Man, I think that's so cool. I think that's so cool, because you never know what people are saying about you,
Right.
And when you hear stuff like that, it's like, that's what I used to say about people too. I said, man, I want to be like that person. And, you don't hear that in martial arts anymore. You don't hear, you don't hear that from kids nowadays. There's nobody out there that gives you that incentive. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can tell you, Billy, for sure. Naturally, Ken Ferguson, Ron Shaw, and there's a number of other guys that came up through the ranks through the years that really, I'm talking about Kenny's students that inspired us. And we used to watch, and Kevin and Melvin really took a lot of the techniques that we saw and we developed, and we tried different things, and we developed some other stuff, man. And that carried me. Right. I mean, all over the country. Even I fought in Japan, man. They ain't never seen some of that stuff.
You went to the with the United States team, right?
I went with the 81 and 82 teams, in Caracas, Venezuela.
Right. I know that. I was there with you there.
And the World Games when they had in Santa Clara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Those were awesome tournaments, man.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I just wanted people to know when they see this that, you know, they know you from the Tae Bo, but I just wanted people to know that you know, we saw you, Billy. We studied you. We took your techniques. We grew up with you, but we took it and we stole all your good techniques.
We stole it. Hey, and let me tell you, when we stole it, we didn't give you no credit.
No, man,
that was something.
It's like truly a blessing, man. I wish I could have talked to Kim, you know.